The following program contains the opinions of the host, guests, and call-in participants. These do not necessarily represent the views of this show's distributors or sponsors. This program may contain obscene, profane, or otherwise objectionable language. Viewer discretion is advised. Howdy ho, coming to you cordless. Greetings from Minneapolis, everybody. It's Wednesday night, April 30th, 2025. I am Jim Peters, and welcome to another edition of Jim Peters at Night. This is episode number 225, if you're keeping score at home. I'd like to apologize for the fact we missed a show on Monday. We had yesterday was scheduled to be off, but we were off on yesterday too. I'm going to address that at the end of the show tonight. We got a lot of stuff going on. I'll tell you what we got going on, though. So tonight we're being joined by the return of the dynamic duo. That's Jennifer Oliver O'Connell. She was billed for this evening, but Jeff Meyer is coming on too, the CEO and publisher of Conk News. They're together again for the first time. No, it's not the first time. They're together again. So we haven't done this for a while, but they're both together, and so yeah, and separate. I don't know, something like that. And so that's tonight. Tomorrow night, Larry Newman's joining us. That's rescheduled from last Wednesday, where at the last minute he had a family thing and couldn't make it. So he's coming on tomorrow night. We're taking the week of May 8th, May 5th to 8th. Next week, we're taking the entire week off. But the good news is we have a really fantastic lineup for the rest of the month. So let me tell you who this is. Hold on just a second here. I got it going on. It's like, okay, Boomer. Yeah. Man. But do I have my shit together? I do not know. All right. So this is what we got going on. We're coming back on Monday, May 12th. Robert Tannenbaum, who has an upcoming book coming out. It's not out yet, but it will be out, I think, in June, I think, called That Day in Dallas. He has his own theory about the conspiracy that killed JFK. And of course, I have mine. So it's going to be really interesting to talk to him. We're going to compare notes. On Tuesday, the 13th, Dennis Neal is joining us. He's written a biography to Elon Musk that just came out 2 weeks ago, I think. So I'll be cool to talk to him. Tim Conaway, the former executive editor of Hustler Magazine. He's joining us on Wednesday. Get to shoot the breeze with him about journalism and stuff. On Thursday, climatologist Matthew Willicke is joining us. And he, like all the other climatologists I have on this program, is a climate change denier, as I am too, which of course will get us flagged on YouTube, and they've already shadow banned us, and I don't know what's going on. I really, seriously, we're too many places with this, and I have no idea what's going on. So but he's coming on. He's a climatologist, and he does not think humans cause climate change, and they don't. So if you follow the science, you would know that. Now, global warming is real. That's a real thing. I don't know a single scientist that denies that, but it's not caused by humans. So let's get that straight right away. On Monday, the 19th, that's 2 weeks from this coming Monday, Don Zora will be joining us for his monthly appearance. So that's what we got going on here. I'm going to I had to dump the front page of Conk News for the commercial because of what we got going on here with Jennifer and Jeff. But let me see if I can. I have 12 seconds to see if I can resurrect it. Let me see if I can do this. Hi, all. I want to talk to you about Conk News. You've probably heard me talk about this before, but if you're a news junkie, you should try this out. Conk News is a news aggregator. Now, there are plenty of news aggregators on the web, but Conk News is different than all the rest, and here's how. Most other news aggregators will lump the top stories from each news source under that news source. the top 10 stories, like, for example, from Fox News, Breitbart, the New York Post, etc. What Conk News does is it sends its servers out onto the web to over 75 different news sources every 3 hours. And yes, this is an automated process, but in this case, that's actually a good thing. And collects the latest stories from said 75 sources and then lays them out on its own front page in the order they were posted, regardless of the source. So you see the latest stories at the top of the front page, regardless of where they're from. And this is all free to you. You don't need to log in. You don't need to subscribe, register, nothing. It's completely free. All you have to do is go to conk.com to check it out. That's conk.com, 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 Conk News. Okay, did we all show up? We all showed up. We're all here.
We did.
Yeah. So this is me on the left. That's Jeff Meyer in the middle, CEO and publisher of Conk News. And on the right, from As a Girl Turns and redstate.com, Jennifer Oliver O'Connell, the return of the dynamic duo. My God.
Jeff it's possible.
Yeah, unbelievable. Jeff has a new laptop. You got new lighting, Jennifer. It looks nice.
Thank you. I actually got the office together, so that's good.
That's good. Yeah, you just moved. We're not going to say where, but yeah.
Okay. To an undisclosed location in northern Alabama.
Right. Right, the undisclosed location, the famous undisclosed location. All right, you guys are both in journalism, and Jennifer, you wrote a piece about the first 100 days of the hoaxes of Trump, and so can the mainstream legacy media embarrass themselves anymore? It's like,
of course, it's endless.
It's endless. It's unbelievable. Like when they hit a low, and then you think, oh, it can't get any worse than this, and it does.
Yeah, they just keep stepping on those rakes, man. Terry Moran did it last night. Try to tell Trump, well, you can't do this because you're then. Trump in his characteristic fashion said, well, when you become president, you can do that. Until then, I'm the president.
Going to become president ever.
No. He's these legacy media types are just, they have the same playbook as 2016 and maybe less of 2016 because they just thought he was a joke. But the same playbook of 2020 and that they've been, pulling out, as I said, that dog just won't hunt. Nobody's listening to them anymore. Nobody believes them anymore. As well as the beauty of the Trump administration and what they're doing. Yeah, some people are saying, oh, it's so sycophantic and who cares? You're having a 2-hour cabinet meeting that you let the public see. They're opening the curtain and letting people see things. So there's less that they can spin and lie because someone can just go to the videotape and look at it for themselves.
Right.
I don't understand how you could run news organizations like this. It's just like, what are they thinking? First of all, their ratings and their readership's completely in the dumper, totally. And then you think, well, you'd think they would figure this out at some point, but no, apparently, I don't know. I describe, Jeff knows this, I describe the going word in my life as naive. And I keep thinking, well, aren't you going to figure this out? No, they don't figure it out. No.
I don't think they want to.
Right. The money's not affected, so they don't have a need.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
If the money was affected, then they'd have to change. I used to watch Morning Joe religiously. For like 4 or 5 years straight, every morning. It starts at 5 a.m. here in the Central Daylight Zone. And it's so hard to watch because the lies they tell, they can't keep up with them because that's the problem with the lie. You forget what you lied about 3 days ago, and now the world moves on and your lie is stuck in the 2 days. It's 48 hours old, and now how do you resurrect it? It's just, Mika is just such a scoffer. It just cracks me up. I did peek at it this morning. And it is just, it's pretty telling. I mean, they're all buggy whips is what they are.
Yeah.
They just don't understand that the Tesla replaced the gas engine car, and they're stuck and they are not going to move. And we shouldn't expect them to either. I mean, it's
You're
having
using
an expectation that they're going to correct their ills without the money being corrected. That's not going to happen. When the money gets corrected, they'll be gone.
well, yeah. Go ahead. No, go ahead, Jennifer, please.
Well, it's interesting that, say for Morning Joe, maybe it's in their contract or something, but who have they gotten rid of? Joy Reid.
Yeah.
Have they gotten rid of Capehart yet? They need to. They've gotten rid of several people who used to be, their money makers, and poor Lawrence is just having a nervous breakdown, so he may go away too.
Yeah.
How about the gal that came on for the first 100 days? Is she done now? Rachel, is she only going to work 2 days a week?
No,
Rachel Madcow?
Yeah.
That's correct. She's being replaced the other 4 days by your girl, Jen Psaki.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, I ran into an old business partner today, and he says, "Do you think Joe Biden will be the first president to ever have to file personal bankruptcy?" I said, "Well, what are you talking about?" He's like, "Think about it. He's got 3 houses. That guy burns about $100,000 to $200,000 a month in just caretakers, property insurance, whatever." Property taxes, heating and cooling bills, and he's got no viable income.
Yeah.
Sure.
I mean, his presidential retirement salary could be,
I think it's $174,000.
yeah, so that's gone, in January.
Right.
So as soon as he burns through everyone's money around him, I said, that's an interesting angle. That's possible that this guy has got no marketing ability to earn money.
It's time for the memoirs to come out now. It's time to burn Nancy Pelosi and all of the people that burned them. I am still salivating and waiting for that to happen.
Okay.
That's how they get their money.
You guys all know the publishing business. Is anybody going to give this guy a decent advance? Most of these biographies, political biographies, usually lose money, but the companies do it for prestige reasons, kind of. But seriously, who is going to buy this book?
Maybe a conservative publisher will pay him.
Yeah, could be. Right.
You're smart, Jeff.
I mean, then the left can't stop it. They can talk, try to over talk it, but they can't stop it coming out.
Yeah.
Or if he goes to a lefty publisher, they'll write it and it'll sit on a shelf and never get published.
Going back to Morning Joe, there's serious rumors going around that they're going to get fired.
Oh, they don't offer anything.
What was that?
They don't offer anything. Now they have the sports dude that used to come on once a week so Joe could have his half hour at the beginning of a show talking sports. This guy's a regular now. I mean, who cares about anything sports-wise at 5 o'clock in the morning?
Right. Well, all right.
You already know whether you won or lost your FanDuel bet the night before.
Okay. But since you brought this up, I'm going to go here, even though this is kind of off topic, and that is, the Stephen A. Smith, so I'm talking, my nephew's a basketball coach, and I said, as far as I can tell, the only thing this guy's good at, that Stephen A. Smith is good at, is drawing attention to Stephen A. Smith. That's as far as I can tell. And my nephew says you are absolutely positively correct.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you guys know this, the ratings on all of these sports talk shows aren't, relatively speaking to television in general, aren't that good. So you're paying somebody $20 million a year and 300,000 or 400,000 people are tuning in. I don't get the math. I don't get it at all. I just don't get it.
Well,
Somebody explain it to me.
ESPN gets the money like CNN, right?
Yeah,
so they
that's
get
right.
those highs carriage fees or whatever they are.
Right.
Then again, the money comes in, the product can be junk.
Yeah.
The dollars aren't affected.
Yeah,
So,
and next to Fox News, they are the most popular cable news or cable network.
Right.
So the last I heard, they're getting $7 a subscriber a month. I don't know if that's true, but It's a lot of money, you know.
That's huge.
Yeah. Because people want access. I mean, again, if you have an administration that's being transparent and he floods the zone all the time between, I think, 11 and 4 o'clock. It's like it's always some Trump something or another.
Yeah.
Particularly in the last 100 days. And really, Fox is the only one that bothers to interrupt its programming to air this stuff. CNN doesn't. MSNBC definitely doesn't.
That's true.
And people are interested. And so that's why Fox has, gone up in the ratings, or unless to go to Rumble or, some of these other alternative media. But otherwise, yeah, Fox has drawn people back in.
I never asked either one of you this. So this is what happened when that debate happened last June, and the beginning, the end of Biden. I know a lot of people, even a lot of like my Republican friends, who was absolutely shocked by Biden's performance. And I don't know about you, we weren't. No. I mean, I've been watching this for months, if not years, and it's like, well, that's par for the course. And there are people who just like, they did not believe it. Did you guys experience this? It's like, did you have friends that came to me and said,
yeah. And it's really ridiculous. The White House Correspondents' Dinner, first of all, they're sitting up talking about, well, we kind of did miss it with the decline, and it's like, we didn't. You were just bloody dishonest.
How could you sit in that room and say you missed it when I'm sitting in my underwear in Minneapolis and I saw it? I don't understand. You're getting paid, $500,000 a year to do this, and I'm sitting in my underwear and I know what's going on. Like,
and close proximity, and saying, we'll take having canned questions in order to get access. It's like, what you were doing.
Right. Yeah. Well, even as press secretary, the last one, John Corinne or whatever her name was.
John there.
She even said she never even met with them. And so the funny thing is, the rest of the media isn't asking, well, who are you getting your answers from? Like, you went out there and spoke to stuff. Who did you get the answer from? And Oz is still hidden from us, but Oz will come out once one of these people gets into some kind of legal trouble.
Yeah.
It's basically the same person that had the auto pin was probably the same person farming out these answers. Yeah.
I think getting back to the White House Correspondents' Dinner, I think that maybe this one might have been the nail in the coffin. It's like this was so egregiously, arrogantly stupid that I don't know if they'll do it again. It's like, they didn't have a host, they didn't have entertainment. They gave them and got their speeches. The guy who's the head of the thing wore this stupid white tuxedo. Somebody said he looked like he went to the prom in 1982, and he did. It's like, it was just really embarrassing. And they don't seem to see it. I don't know if that's because everyone loves the nerd prom or whatever the hell, I don't know, but so Jennifer, you wrote a piece yesterday, I think it was, of the top 100 hoaxes in the first 100 days, but you want to talk about the top 3?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I did the top 3.
Yeah, what were they?
Or at least my top 3.
Yeah, do you remember? Can you name them? Are you on drugs right now?
No. There was a slow internet connection, so I was waiting for you to come back.
It's okay. It's all right.
Bit of an internet lag. Abrego Garcia was the top one, the biggest rate. Definitely Doge, Elon Musk, the Doge bros, and that, they're just these 19-year-old unelected, unskilled people when they're these thought leaders and people who have run businesses forever and frankly gave up their businesses or took time away from them because I want to serve my country. Yeah. And they've actually innovated their businesses in a way that would contribute to the government. Right. So
I have to stop you for a second because I got to ask Jeff this. How can you be against this? The whole economically, the country's going to hell, and they're actually talking about, Jeff, they are resisting cutting the budget. I don't. It's like
Right. And again, it's the 80-20. 80% of America is for it. The 20%, and you'll run into them, someone that's working for a food shelf or feeding starving kids or something, saying, oh, this thing's just drastically going to affect us. It's like, well, when the tap gets turned off because you can't make the numbers work, that's what happens. I said to one friend of mine, well, I've been in service clubs my whole life. If X happens and so the soccer team can't get new soccer nets, the service club gets together and says, hey, they're $1,500. There's 50 of us. Do the math, write the check. I said, is that what people in your group are doing? Just a dunce look, like, no. I'm like, well, usually you reach in your pocket to bridge the gap until you figure out how you fund it going forward. It is, if you are against Doge, you're on the take.
Yeah, or you're stupid. Right.
You're not, you can't even put it stupid. It is totally, you have
or you're just clueless about how anything works. And sadly, that's about 15% of the population, I would say. They're clueless. Absolutely.
Did you say 15?
Yeah. Yeah. I see it as more, he says 80-20. I say about 85-15. And that 15%. And it's not that maybe 5% are against it because, like he said, they're on the take. About 10%, it's like they just have no concept what is going on.
Yeah.
And they just believe anything that they hear. I am talking with someone who doesn't, has no political opinions. Again, low information voter, and they looked at the website and are appalled that this is going on.
Yes.
Yeah,
because it's not one spot.
Right.
I mean, it's the biggest blanket you could ever throw on.
It's a Leviathan.
Yeah. Matter of fact, I have to admit, I'm starting to be a little peeved, if anything, that they're not cutting enough. I mean, it's like, they're talking about, 200, 300 billion. Okay. Yeah. But the budget's like $16 trillion. I mean, it's a start. You can't complain about anything, any improvement, but still, I actually thought, I thought they could actually cut $2 trillion out of the annual budget, but I don't think they're going to be able to do it. I don't know.
Well, they can, but again, it's not even up to them. It's up to OPM. It's up to Congress.
Yeah.
All the Doge guys are saying is, here's the problem.
Yeah.
now do something about it. It's
Right.
up to the American people to hold Congress's feet to the fire and say, okay, when are you going to take care of this problem? When is the fraud going to stop? When and how long our bandwidth will last to do that, I don't know. I hope something is. Well, we'll see what happens with this whole budget. I'm kind of iffy on that end, but
yeah,
because they're all in on keeping it.
They like their money. They like their gravy.
Yeah,
they like their gravy.
I mean, you get to be a big hero with everyone's money, everyone else's money. That's a tough thing to give up.
Yep.
I don't know. I'm terrible. I'm naive. I just expect these people to just bite it and do the right thing. But no,
never.
No.
I know.
The money's too gigantic and the ego is past the gigantic pile of money.
Yeah.
Look at Nancy Pelosi going around with a walker. It isn't like she's saying, seriously, like, hey,
she's gonna go out like Mitch McConnell, basically. Yeah. She's gonna be basically in a wheelchair and falling over before she leaves.
Yeah.
It'll be like Feinstein and Harry Reid. He fell on his treadmill. He fell so hard he smashed half his head open.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he claimed that everybody believes it was the mob that did him in for whatever reason.
Is that true? I never heard that.
That was the real story that was going around because
really?
he's been mobbed up forever. So he did something that didn't please him, and they showed him what was what.
I did not. I never heard that before.
They showed him the front side of his treadmill.
Yeah, basically. I know it's a bad thing to laugh about, but
Nancy Pelosi just brings up the insider trading thing. They got to do something about this. This is nuts.
yeah. And that's another thing. They keep floating this bill, putting it forward, making a grand gesture about it, and they never do anything about it.
No, never gets passed.
Lucrative. It's way too lucrative.
Yeah. Of course it is. What is she? I think the last time I heard she had like a 74% annual return on her stocks. I mean, you're lucky if you can get 7.
and either she's a savant or she's got the inside dope.
I don't think she's a savant. No. She might know ice cream. That's probably about it. All right. So I got completely off the topic here, and you guys are really good sports. So, okay, you named the top 2. What was the third thing on your list?
So the Doge Bros, and the third one tied into the Doge Bros with this whole hair on fire about Social Security, and saying that they're going to take away your Social Security. They're going to do this. They're going to do this, and it's like, no, nobody's taking away anything. And if they don't do anything about it, it's just going to go away anyway.
It's a blatant lie. And you're absolutely right. If they don't do anything about it, it's going to go away.
Right.
Now I don't know about you guys. I'm going to turn 70 in 6 months. I actually never expected to get it. I thought it would be bankrupt by the time I came around. I really did. But right now, I mean, it looks like what the last I heard, I think they got 5 years.
Well, I expect you to collect.
But not you?
No. No. I mean, I'm 58. If I go to 68, in 10 years, it's supposed to be insolvent. So,
Right. You're not 58.
I am.
No, come on. No, you're kidding me. No. Jeff is 58, but.
Oh, I'm 59.
Yeah, we're the same age.
You're 59?
1966, baby.
I'm sorry. Yeah. I had you for a year younger. What are you going to do for that?
Nothing.
Jeff? Nothing?
No, because the calendar is going to hit that date whether I'm alive celebrating or not.
Yeah. Well, maybe
do something.
Yeah.
Say again, Jennifer. What was that?
He should do something celebratory.
For sure.
It's important.
We go to this is excitement now. Is from me going to the U of M hockey games and watching the ice skating cheerleaders do their Vegas routine after during the first intermission. That's my idea of excitement.
There you go. Hey, did you see that the Ukraine mineral deal got signed today?
Yes. I think that's a big deal, actually.
Oh, for sure.
It's a game changer. Yeah.
Now Trump can say to Putin, you better not touch any of that dirt that we have claim to, because you're going to have real problems.
Well, okay, so, you're talking about the first 100 days here, Jennifer. Let's go down. There's been some spectacular things that have happened and not so spectacular. First of all, the border thing got completely fixed like ASAP. I mean, unbelievable, right?
Yeah.
Not only that, and this hasn't really made the news. Inflation's at 2.4%. So it's almost down to what would be considered, 2% is considered optimum. So that's almost gone. On the other hand, the tariff thing has everybody nervous and stuff. But I look at this as just strategic planning. He's got a year to fix this, and I think it'll work, and within a year it'll work.
And you have a whole system that was basically effed up for 20 some odd years. Thanks to
longer. Right.
Longer. Experts, geniuses telling us this is the way it's done. Right. And every president has, either participated in it or just gone on autopilot and let them do what they want to do.
Yeah. And
so he's making an omelet. You're gonna break some eggs. He's breaking eggs at this point.
You brought up a really good point, and that is one of the things Trump has proved is that he's proved that there's a whole bunch of problems that people said could never be solved that are infinitely solvable. I mean, Look at NAFTA, and the thing, I thought generally Clinton did a good job, but they're saying, well, we're never going to get manufacturing back here because it will never pay for itself. It'll never work. That's BS.
It already happening.
It was BS all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is already happening. Go ahead.
Yeah. And again, this is where the college educated pontificators that have never participated in the actual economy, they just sit above it and look at the different moves and say, oh, that's not the right thing to do. They've never felt the grind of either opportunity or the grind of the lost opportunity, like a recession
Yeah.
or a natural disaster, or the president saying, we're going to tariff all this Chinese stuff, and then American electronics manufacturers that make the little boards and circuitry stuff. I had lunch with a friend who does that. And he said, I've got more bid requests sitting in my email inbox from Monday to today than I would have normally in 2 months.
Wow.
So the people that, I mean, the Blovey hearts are going to say, oh, that can't work. Well, it's going to work because it's already started.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Yeah.
you know, yeah. Can they build a factory in 12 months? No. But there's all sorts of little producers that will make, each one will make one part to get the 10 that would come from overseas in a container. Well, all
Right.
that money is circulating around here.
Yeah. Yeah,
And,
definitely.
you
And
know,
I mean, look at how fast they ran up during Operation Warp Speed when they were trying to, when they were doing ventilators and the other ridiculous stuff in COVID. And they ramped up pretty quickly. He kind of gave us a vision of that. Not that we loved the era or what was going on, but the example of businesses coming together to solve a problem. And that's all this tariff thing is negotiating, coming together, solving problems. And I think it's gonna turn out differently and better than most people are imagining.
That's what I think too. I agree, Jennifer. And I had a guy on the show named Jonathan Lockwood. He's a military historian. We were talking about World War II, about how quickly, not so much the military, but American business ramped up to supply the war effort. I mean, it's like in like 2 months, Ford went from making cars to making, jet fighters, and it's just like, and they're turning out 60 of them a day. It's mind-boggling. Our form of democracy is really slow and cumbersome, but man, when it comes to business, we can turn on a dime. It's really amazing.
And that's the beauty of American innovation. That's how it's not like we don't. If somebody else invented the car, but we innovated the automobile. And it became the symbol of America. I mean,
and Lockwood was also, Jennifer Lockwood was also talking about that, about the fact, he said, that China will never beat us because they can't innovate anything.
Right.
Culturally, they are immune to it. They cannot do it. Know. So I mean, all they do is steal shit from us, and then they just,
China doesn't have any junkyards. We have junkyards where you can figure out an idea and then break 50 of them and then call the junkyards 50 miles away and get more things to test. China doesn't have that capability.
No, they don't.
But that's also the aspect of freedom. When you have the freedom to play and tinker around. And I think it's John Ratzenberger had a show about that, about just how going around and tinkering and how we don't tinker anymore. And that's why we have less innovation. It's like they don't allow their people to do anything, and they force them to do anything.
Right.
They don't have the freedom to imagine and dream and come up with this stuff. Again, that's why America is so unique. I don't understand why people, I'm not saying we are a perfect country. We never have been. But these unique aspects that make us us are what they seem to resent as well as admire the world. It's very odd.
That's well put. You're absolutely right.
Well, it's the whole fear mongering that they did back in the 60s, 50s, 60s, and 70s about the spread of communism.
Yeah.
The dumbest thing we did was get in the way of it. We should have let all of Vietnam go communist because they would have gotten rid of it quicker. Because it doesn't work. It's never worked. We could have said to the world, you can bring communism to Canada and Mexico, but you cross that border and we will wipe you out. We'll wipe you out in Mexico, and we'll wipe out your home country and any other communist country. And it would have just self-eaten it would have done what the mainstream media is doing. They're eating themselves because it doesn't work, and communism has never worked. We were sold one of the biggest lies that we should fear it. And who wanted the fear? The big war machine.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
They benefited from 40, 50 years of, Putin's going to be a scary guy. No, they were starving to death.
Yeah.
Although I'll throw this out, though. If you go back to the 50s and 60s, I could make an argument that the people in Congress were legitimately scared. Now, whether they should have been is another matter. But I mean, I don't think it wasn't just the populace. It's like everybody was brainwashed about this.
Right.
You know?
Right. Because we weren't being honest about whether it worked or not.
Right.
And in the 50s, it was fairly new, right?
That's correct.
To
It
some
was.
degree.
That's right.
The 60s, it was pretty identified that, hey, Russia is going to eat itself because they have this big military, but they can't feed their people because they aren't innovating tractors and that stuff. And for sure, the Vietnamese, the Koreans, we should have just said, hey, they're a long way from us. Let's see what sorts out in 5 years. And the only reason that's still there is we have that big military presence around those.
Yeah. But by the way, it's funny we should be talking about this because today's the anniversary in 1975 of the fall of South Vietnam. The Vietnamese war ended today. Yeah. So I was going to talk about that in part 2 of the show. There's a whole bunch of stuff that happened on April 30th. A whole bunch. George Washington was inaugurated as the first president. Hitler killed himself, supposedly.
On his way to Argentina.
I'm big on that.
Someone who liked the boys from Brazil, huh?
Tim Berners-Lee released the code for the World Wide Web today in 1993. So, and here we are. Yeah. We're talking to each other for $19 a month. It's unbelievable. Yeah. So anyway, but yeah, you have a point, Jeff, because it's like if we had wrapped that up sooner, first of all, the war, we wouldn't have had that war. 55,000 people died basically for no reason. It was terrible. And that was one of the things where, I bitch and moan about the college kids now, but the college kids in the 1960s, they were basically right about that. I mean, about the war, it was pointless. So,
yeah.
I don't know if that's the way I see it anyway.
I mean, it's almost like what they're, what the people who came back broken with from Iraq and Afghanistan. It's like, except on this side, it's not the students that are protesting that, but the people who were harmed by it and the parents that they're the ones that are protesting. It should be.
And again, I'm not saying I'm right. It's just something to consider. Like, if what we know about communism now, we should just not fear it for sure. Now going forward, like if you want to be communist, have your deal, and we'll help foment the freedom thought once you take all the freedom away, because it's easier to do it that way than to pay for this demarcation line.
Jeff, historically, I don't think you're wrong. I mean, it seems to me, I look back to the 70s and 80s, everyone was predicting the demise of the Soviet Union. The only thing is, I don't think anybody thought it was going to happen as quickly as it did,
Right.
And then you look at history generally, things generally seem to happen faster than people think they're going to.
Right.
General rule.
Yeah, that's the first 100 days of the Trump.
Yeah.
Things are happening way faster than the media can get their mind around, and so they're pissed off.
And I think that was deliberate. And if we can say the best thing that came out of 4 horrid years of Joe Biden is that Trump had 4 years to plan, strategize, and flood the zone. So
Jennifer, you also wrote a piece a few days ago about the stuff going on at Columbia University. Now, I am fascinated is not the right word. I do not believe that here in 2025, at the beginning of the 21st century, we're dealing with rampant anti-Semitism. I just find this just mind-boggling. You know,
It's nauseating. Actually, I find it sickening
Yeah.
because we have made movies about the Holocaust and talked about how that happened, and the fact that it is being seeded again and let run rampant.
Right.
It's horrific. And the thing that turns my stomach the most, frankly, and this was during the election, is that people are still blind to the fact, they were still so rabidly Jewish people, rabidly anti-Trump, even though Biden is the one giving the farm to these Palestinian protesters and Hamas. And I'm just like, how do you make that disconnect? I don't understand that.
Trump derangement syndrome is a very real thing. I mean, I have friends who have it. I have Republican friends who have it.
Same.
For whatever irrational reason. I don't know if this, I mean, he's an unusual man. There's no doubt about that, But
I mean, you don't have to be in love with him, and I don't consider myself in love with him, but policies and what you stand for versus what you stand against, to me, that should be a no-brainer to people. But people are wrapped up in their passions or whatever.
Well, there was an interesting survey that came out about a month ago. I think it was Rasmussen, and they asked people on a policy point by point basis. For most of the stuff Trump's doing, he has very large public support. Matter of fact, the only last thing I saw, the only thing he's underwater about is the Gulf of America, believe it or not. But the amazing thing is that same survey, they did ask people, personally, do you like him? And 50% of the people said no. So we have now, at least people can put this in their heads. They support what he's doing, but they don't personally like him, and that's okay.
I'm not sure where this illusion of needing to like your president came from.
Yeah, I don't either.
I think it was during Bush and Clinton, and would you like to have a beer with him? No, but can he run the country? That's all I care about. Yeah. It's like, I'm never going to see him, and if I do, awesome. If not, I'd rather care about seeing and liking my city council person that I see every week, as opposed to the president that I'm only going to see on television.
Yeah. I had a friend who was really good friends with Bill Clinton. She worked in the DNC in Washington, D.C., and she said for the 8 years of the Clinton presidency, every week he called her up and asked her to go jogging. And she knew what that meant. And she said it was really funny. Please hold for the president of the United States. Anyway, yeah. He wanted to go jogging.
Yeah.
Oh, lost her. Now it's just you and I. That's terrible. Yeah.
Again, I didn't like what Clinton was doing on a lot of things, but he was Clinton was, to me, owning a business, a good president, because he went to the middle when he figured it out. Made people work for their, get off of the welfare system if they could work, which means those are people that now have some personal value. They're not reliant on this big beast that is soulless.
I don't have a hard time with the fact that half the country or half the working country doesn't pay any in federal taxes. I don't, just to have some skin in the game. I think, even $20, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can't belong to the club unless
either that. I am all for eliminating taxes.
Lost her again.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, Trump seems to think that if they can, she's back.
I'm back.
You're back.
Internet connection. Yeah. I hope Trump does, frankly. I mean, he's talking about capping it at 2,000, but I would be happy to see the IRS go. If the IRS is eliminated in 4 years, that would make me a very happy person.
Yeah.
And look at how he's presenting this to the American public. No tax on tips.
Right.
Because that's an energy exchange, right?
Right.
Yeah,
he's expanding energy. Then he's saying no tax on Social Security, no tax on overtime. So he's going to the group that will feel it the most. And then it's that next group up that really gets clobbered, right? That middle American, they've done a great
Right.
job. They can make 200 grand a year doing whatever, and they
Mhm.
just get killed by the tax code. It's
Yeah.
the ones that are in the 750 and up, they're going to pay more, and
Right.
they should.
Yeah.
But the
But
grinders,
they already do. The grinders of the way, and they punish. It's a punishment of success, is what it is.
yes, yep.
Which is why they find tax shelters and loopholes and all this sort of stuff. It's like, stop punishing success.
Yes, and get rid of the corporate tax.
Yeah,
Get it through payroll.
for
and-
real.
And
Well, Jeff, you
go
got
on Ozempic, so you don't need so much.
Jeff, you got to explain to the viewers why the corporate tax is bullshit, because it is, but people
Well,
don't know why.
First
ahead.
of all, you want every business to be profitable. And so businesses do. The tax code is, remember, the tax code is the same whether you're publicly traded or you're privately held.
Right.
There's a tax code. So why should a small family business, maybe they do $100 million in sales or in revenue a year, have to compete at a tax level of Target?
Yeah.
Because
How
Target,
about less than $10,000 a year? Do
yeah,
you know that about a quarter, if not more, of corporations or businesses are small, tiny businesses, less than 10 employees, or solopreneurs like me? Hello.
yeah,
I'm a corporation. For various reasons, you want to be a corporation,
correct.
but I am still treated as if I'm Target.
Yes.
It makes no sense.
It's the most bizarre thing that we allow to happen. Now the government does it because it's easier to cut one head off than find the 10 people in the company.
Right.
They don't want to have to do actual work, is what
Correct.
it was.
Yeah.
Yep. And because the government is so lazy, again, this is going to catch up with them, because you got someone like Trump saying no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, no tax on the Social Security. It's making people think like, yeah, what does that extra effort of mine go to? There's no value to it for me, because I still have to split a larger percentage with this beast that I don't know.
Yeah.
And I think that's, it's just, he's just out there. It's just repeated, it's a truth covering up all the lies. Trump's a criminal. No, there's going to be no taxes on tips. Which is easier for people to have a conversation about?
Yeah.
Taxes on tips.
Right.
Well, you're talking about, people say, well, he's a fascist, but like someone pointed out, how many fascists are trying to make the government smaller?
Right.
Yeah. But Jeffrey, the real thing is the thing about the corporate tax is that it's basically a pass-through tax. The public pays it.
Yes. Yeah. The corporations don't pay taxes.
Right.
You pay it when you buy their product and check out.
That's
and you
correct.
pay their corporate tax, and then you pay your state and local city and sales taxes. So you're the one who's holding this tax bag. It's a bigger than 3 bricks, and the chain is unbreakable, and you're in a small boat and it's sinking. You're gonna run out of money.
Right. Or you're on the Titanic and it's sinking.
Yeah.
One of the two. Yeah.
Those are two.
Yeah.
When
It is.
something's
You
sinking,
just the
it's not
corporate
money.
tax. Leave the profits in the company. They'll pay if you work for the right kind of company. And again, it's up to the worker to decide: am I working for the right group? Your efforts raises all the boat, or the boat goes up. Everyone gets more money, or this person at the top keeps all this money, and they have no employees the next year. It's just
Right.
It would be the same effect as if you gave students a voucher and said, "Go find the school you like."
Yeah.
It would sort itself out in a couple of school year cycles, and it'd be normalized, and it happens so quick. Everyone would love their teacher, or say, "Oh, I had Mr. Peters as a teacher, and we just didn't hit it off." So
He's a pervert.
yeah. I went with Miss Jennifer, and you know what? I've never learned so much in the first 6 months. And that's how our economy works. You're rewarded for doing a good job in our education system. You're just a tool.
Well, Jeff, you just brought up a very basic thing, but people never think about this. One of the best things about capitalism is competition. And the thing is, like, okay, the one thing about America that's unique is we have 50 state governments, and they do basically compete against each other. They do.
Yeah.
They compete for citizens, for tax dollars. They compete for all sorts of stuff. The problem with I try to tell my liberal friends this. The problem with like the government taking over healthcare is there would be no competition. It's very simple as that. If the government's going to fall on its butt, and it will, you have no recourse. Whereas if you don't like the taxes in California, you can move to Texas, and you do. People do.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know. It's yeah. What? Okay.
No, we're at one of the greatest times to be alive.
I agree.
In that first 20 years, 230 years ago, that was a great time. There was all sorts of stuff going on. We're 250 years old, so we're young. We like took the training wheels off. Now we're skinning our knees a little bit, but we do know how to ride a bike, and we're going to ride stronger and faster than the rest of the world because we have the ability to be free. We can move.
Well put. And I think with that, we'll end this evening. Are you guys cool with that?
I'm perfectly fine with that. Sounds
Good
good.
to see you, Jennifer.
Yeah,
Been too
It's good
long.
to see you, Jeff. It has been.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Congratulations on the move.
we
Thank you.
got to do this again. So I don't.
Certainly.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you, folks. Jennifer Oliver Lacano, Jeff Meyer. Appreciate it. We'll see you guys. Okay, you take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Hi, all. Jim Peters again for Conk News. Let me tell you one of the greatest things about Conk News. It's free. It's completely and totally free. You don't need to register. You don't need to log in, subscribe, none of that stuff. Sure, they run a few ads on the front page, but if you're an old fogey like me, you might actually appreciate this because when you check out Conk News at conk.com, you'll probably notice that it's the closest thing to an old-fashioned hard copy newspaper that you'll find online. The latest up-to-the-minute news from 75 high-quality sources collected every 3 hours, all laid out with photos and headlines directly from the articles. And when you click on a story, you go directly to that story. No ad page, no interstitial page, none of that stuff. This is the way online news is meant to be. And did I mention that it's completely free? Seriously, how much of the stuff in America is free now, right? That's of quality anyway. So check this out for yourself. It's at conk.com, CONK.com. Conk News. All right, folks. We're going to have a little abbreviated part 2 tonight, and we are not taking phone calls, and I think you'll understand in just a minute. As I pointed out with the gang there, it's April 30th, and there's a whole bunch of stuff that happened in the United States on April 30th. The World Wide Web was invented in 1993. George Washington was inaugurated as our first president on April 30th, 1789. J.J. Thomson announced the discovery of electrons. Now, this is actually really interesting. That was in 1897. And because we had already been, electricity had been basically used for 30 years already, but they didn't really understand why it worked. Well, this guy, J.J. Thomson, he actually figured out what it was about electricity that actually worked. And that's the transfer of electronics down the line, or electrons down the line. He figured that out. That was today. Adolf Hitler committed suicide, supposedly. We'll get to that someday too. I've talked about that before. And finally, yeah, the South Vietnam fell on April 30th, 1975, and that's actually brings me to what I wanted to talk about tonight. You know, I end this show every night with my sign off is good night, Esperanza, good night, Uncle Donnie. Those are real people. Esperanza is actually my mother. It's my mother's real name. And Uncle Donnie, it's not, people ask me, are you talking about Donald Trump? No, I'm not. No, Uncle Donnie is a patriarch of my wife's family. His real name's Don Sullivan, and he lives near Bayfield, Wisconsin, or he did. He passed away on Monday. Suddenly, he was 74, excuse me. Um, it's hard to explain how a guy could have so much influence over so many people, especially because he was so relatively quiet. He had a remarkable life. He dropped napalm in the Vietnam War. He was apparently extremely good at it, and he came home intact. And 6 weeks after coming home from Vietnam, he's putting a new roof on his house, and he fell off the roof and busted his spine. He was paralyzed for the rest of his life. And so that's some people like give up. Well, Don didn't just give up. Don grew up around Bayfield, Wisconsin, where his parents and my wife's family is from, and that's a beautiful area of the country. Bayfield is the most northern city in Wisconsin. It's on the Lake Superior, and it is called the gateway to the Apostle Islands, which is a national park. There's a bunch of islands there, and if you've never been to Lake Superior, if you've been to Chicago and you've been on a Navy pier and looked out over the edge to see and realize you can't see the other side of Lake Michigan, well, Lake Superior is bigger. It's basically the ocean, and it's a beautiful area of the country. But people think, well, it's the Midwest, all that land. The land in Bayfield is basically worthless. You can't grow anything there except trees. And so Don inherited 250 acres of land, and only thing on it is forest. And he decides, without the use of his legs, he's going to become a logger, and he did. And him and his friend Maynard, they logged. He ended up owning about 500 acres, and it was constantly changing. He was always buying and selling different parts of it. He was basically the premier landowner in that part of the country. And he was what he called a pulp farmer. He farmed trees, is what he did, because it was the only thing that would grow there. So, and he did that very successfully most of his life. Any rate, he passed away on Monday, and he leaves behind a very, very large family. My wife literally has over 100 cousins, well over 100 cousins. They were all very good Catholics, and they did their Catholic duty, and she has cousins she's never even met, and the family gets together regularly, several times a year. It's not unusual for us to have 40 people over for dinner. I'm not kidding. I've done the cooking because Don loved my cooking, so he always asked me to cook, and so I was happy to do that. Any rate, it's going to be a very, very big loss for our family, and that's why I didn't do a show on Monday. I couldn't do it. I couldn't. So we were scheduled to go up there. The family has something called canning weekend, where originally it was a bunch of women who got together and simultaneously canned and drank wine in Don's kitchen. And what I call it the ranch, but no one else up there, no one else calls it that. They don't like it that I do that, but I do. I call it the ranch. And at any rate, so it was supposed to be canning weekend, and now we're gonna have to go to a funeral on Saturday, and that's pretty sad. So, at any rate, but we carry on, and you know how it is. If this happened, I've lost a lot of people. You can't be my age and not, So, but still, it's pretty. This is pretty tough. It is. So I've got to change my my sign off just a little bit. Good night, Uncle Donnie, wherever you are. We'll be back tomorrow night, everybody. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. Thank you. You take care. We'll see you tomorrow night. Larry Newman will be here. Take care.